Convoy!
Discover the new language of travel. Marriott Bonvoy. 30 hotel brands, endless experiences, rewards, reimagined.
Bonvoy.
Bonvoy. Bonvoy.
Convoy! Convoy!
That's just too good. Brilliant from Rashford.
Convoy!
Bonsai? Bonvoy.
Bonvoy.
Convoy!
Discover the new language of travel. Marriott Bonvoy. 30 hotel brands, endless experiences, rewards, reimagined.
Bonvoy.
Bonvoy. Bonvoy.
Convoy! Convoy!
That's just too good. Brilliant from Rashford.
Convoy!
Bonsai? Bonvoy.
Bonvoy.
Convoy!
Discover the new language of travel. Marriott Bonvoy. 30 hotel brands, endless experiences, rewards, reimagined.
Bonvoy.
Bonvoy. Bonvoy.
Convoy! Convoy!
That's just too good. Brilliant from Rashford.
Convoy!
Bonsai? Bonvoy.
Bonvoy.
Convoy!
Discover the new language of travel. Marriott Bonvoy. 30 hotel brands, endless experiences, rewards, reimagined.
Bonvoy.
Bonvoy. Bonvoy.
Convoy! Convoy!
That's just too good. Brilliant from Rashford.
Convoy!
Bonsai? Bonvoy.
Bonvoy.
Convoy!
Discover the new language of travel. Marriott Bonvoy. 30 hotel brands, endless experiences, rewards, reimagined.
Bonvoy.
Bonvoy. Bonvoy.
Convoy! Convoy!
That's just too good. Brilliant from Rashford.
Convoy!
Bonsai? Bonvoy.
Bonvoy.
Convoy!
Discover the new language of travel. Marriott Bonvoy. 30 hotel brands, endless experiences, rewards reimagined.
Bonvoy.
Bon boy. Bon boy.
Bon boy!
That's just too good. Brilliant from Rashford.
Bonsai? Bonvoy.
Bonvoy.
Bon boy!
What's going on, guys? What's going on? Yeah, interesting topic this week. I'm sure we're gonna have lots of discuss. And let me just quickly here. Today's live stream is not sponsored, so away you go. And welcome to the stream. Welcome back for another second Sunday in a row, second successive Sunday. Hope everybody is doing well as we can be, and let's delve into we'll shortly delve into the meat of this week's topic of discussion, but we'll also wait a little bit for more people to get in since we are a little bit early. It is an exceptionally sunny weekend here in Vancouver, and so I've definitely been trying to enjoy the weather as much as possible. I hear it's gonna be rainy again next week, so let's try to make the most. How's everybody doing? I hope we're all hanging in there. And happy Halloween, right? It's a special day today too. I'll let you guys chat among yourselves a little bit, and we'll get started soon. 2 minutes to go. But for sure, speaking of Halloween, I know some of you, especially if you're on the East Coast, you might be taking your kids trick-or-treating, so I will forgive if you're skipping today's session, if you're tuning in after the fact. Obviously, we'll be able to watch these back again later on too. So hey Cecil, hey LabTech Superstar, thanks for being so dedicated to these streams. Arsenal shirt today. We are actually doing well again, so I'm feeling better about showing off the colors, better than like a couple months ago when it was a bit of a disaster. Do you have any hope for World of Hyatt with the Bonvoy changes? And that's just what we're going to get into today. What is going on with hotel rewards in general? Is there still hope? Is there still value? Or are we just looking at a very bleak landscape when it comes to hotels? And I mean, keep in mind, worst case I'd say is something that we've already talked about many times in previous videos, and kind of the overall trend. It doesn't really take if you've been around for a while, you can kind of see a very clear trend with hotel programs, which is Hilton kind of made the first move, got rid of their award charts, moved to dynamic pricing. That was many years ago. We saw Marriott Bonvoy go all the way to peak and off peak ever since they absorbed Starwood Hotels and Resorts, and Marriott Bonvoy this week obviously going dynamic as well. And even Hyatt, we're talking here as though Hyatt's going to save us from Bonvoy, but Hyatt themselves also did peak and off-peak pricing on the exact same day that Bonvoy announced dynamic pricing is coming. So Hyatt, it doesn't really take a rocket scientist to figure out that, maybe next year, maybe the year after, but Hyatt could choose to go dynamic, and it would only be another step in the trend that we're already seeing. So, look, Hyatt may not be the answer, right? It may not be long-term. If we're just talking about bigger picture, it might just be we live in a dynamic world now in which, we have cash and we have points, and it won't really be like we always use our points for a certain type of redemption where we can really tease out that particular reliable long-term strategy. Instead, it's like for every specific trip, we look up all our options, depending on maybe which chain we're loyal to based on status. And then we say, okay, does it make sense to redeem points here, or maybe makes sense to pay cash and to seek to optimize the cash side so that maybe one day it will be a better idea to use points. There's still a lot we don't know, obviously. We don't even know what Bonvoy dynamic pricing is going to look like, but we kind of know the direction they're going in, and it doesn't look pretty. Oh, Richard, the less said about IHG, the better, right? And we don't even tend to talk about them a lot because what? Like how do you earn IHG points, and how do you how do you get value out of that? I feel like there's a Chase IHG card which I've gotten once, and I've yet to redeem those points meaningfully in any real way. And I've yet to identify real aspirational sweet spot redemptions. I think one reason that Marriott, Hilton, and Hyatt still stand head and shoulders above IHG, and a reason that we may continue to be drawn to the hotel game is the status program, right? Because we can still at least say, at least until now, if we stay up, if we dedicate our nights to one of these programs, and then we can eventually get status that we can trade in for like meaningful benefits at higher value stays, expensive properties, and kind of squeeze out value that way. Somebody asked in the comments in one of our YouTube videos, like, what's the point though of aiming for status if like you don't know what the points are going to be worth? So ultimately these are kind of two separate things, but it does make it a valid question. Like, is it still worth being loyal to any one of these if they've shown that they can, the way they reward that loyalty is by changing the rules of the game, just so frequently and so drastically. So I'd love to get all of our thoughts here, and it's very much a discussion type session in which if you have a thought, shout it out, and we'll get everybody's thoughts, including my own. But yeah, for anybody who's tuning in and who isn't familiar with kind of what we're talking about, obviously the major news of this week is Marriott Bonvoy kind of throwing out a few. It's interesting. They started their press release with a few positive nuggets, which we may also talk about, but they then dropped a major bomb that they're gonna get rid of the entire award chart as of March 2022. So the whole category system's going away. As of 2022, 97% of properties will remain within their current ranges, but 3% will be fluctuating beyond their current ranges. My guess is, some of the most desirable, some of the most otherwise expensive properties in that 3%. And then in 2023, so that's still fairly long term, but it's important for us to start thinking about it. All the properties will, the floodgates are open. They can charge whatever they want to charge. Now, it's interesting because in the press release, I think they said there's still going to be minimums and maximums, almost to say like there's still going to be, it's almost to say it's not going to be a case of they can charge whatever they want to charge. But the whole thing with dynamic pricing is those minimums and maximums can obviously change at any time. And we don't really have a recourse if we're kind of calling that out and noticing that it's changing, and minimums and maximums and stuff is going all the way out to like 150k or maybe 200k points per night. We don't know what's going to look like, and we don't really have a recourse to say that this or that is unreasonable because everything's dynamic in the first place. Ashish, welcome to the live stream, and thank you for your super chat. That's very kind of you, really. And yeah, thanks to everybody for tuning in. Please make a video on low-income credit cards. Yeah, good idea. I've been always welcome video ideas, especially if they come with a super chat. We'll definitely prioritize those. So low-income credit cards is a good one. I'll add it to the list. And there's some interesting things that, well, obviously, many of the cards we talk about, we tend to focus on are higher income premium cards that do have an income requirement. So if you're a low income earner, you may be discouraged from applying for those high income ones because on paper you don't meet the income requirements. So if you'd prefer to only apply for cards that you're eligible for, then there are still many cards that will fit that bill and that will give you plenty of rewards to consider. So Ashish, yeah, look out for that coming soon. Almaha Resorts, Paul Choi, hey, yeah, I got your email, by the way. I've got to respond, but yeah, so Paul, Omaha Resort for sure. I think I'd be very surprised if the pricing there doesn't at least change, if not go wild in 2022. And the Maldives resorts too. I think we could see higher than the current cap of 100,000 points is probably likely at the rate things are going. If we take a look at what Hilton has done, where Bonvoy has no doubt at least taken notice, if not drawn inspiration. Hilton has a cap of 120,000 points on 95,000 points, Hilton points per night on most of their top tier properties, and like a handful of them, maybe two of them, I think, the Waldorf Astorias in the Maldives and in Los Cabos in Mexico, they go all the way up to 120,000 points per night. In some cases with the Waldorf, even 150,000. So it could be a situation there with Marriott. They might choose Omaha, they might choose some of the Maldives ones to just go still have a cap, but they're well within their rights to raise that cap at any point in time. And that doesn't account for, by the way, the fact that Hilton points these days are so easy to rack up. Like if you just look at the US side bonuses, right? I mean, okay, so yeah, traditionally the Hilton points have always been in the range of 150,000, 120,000, sometimes 200,000 we've seen points as a sign-up bonus, which is very meaningful. So even though Hilton is dynamic and we kind of don't like that about the program, we do like the fact that they have these huge bonuses and they sell points for 0.5 cents per point very regularly. So it's like, we can always go and capture that value with the high value stays because we can buy points at 0.5 cents per point throughout the year. That hasn't been the case so far with Bonvoy, and until this time, until November 3rd offers, which by the way we'll talk about too. This time they put out 150,000 points, 125,000 points plus free night awards on the US Bonvoy Brilliant and Business cards. But until now, we haven't really seen that level. Yeah, it has been a record high offer this time. So I'm curious, if American Express US keeps those sign up bonuses at the same level, it's gonna be an awesome, at least not awesome, but a little bit of a reprieve if Marriott Bonvoy redemptions go way high. Waldorf Astoria Shanghai would be lit. Yeah, D3 King, how's it going? I've seen your face around a couple times, so thanks for dropping in. I actually stayed at the Waldorf Shanghai. I thought the elite treatment was less than impressive, although I've heard some friends of mine say that they've been treated excellently as a diamond member every time. So I don't know what's going on there. Maybe I just got unlucky, but I thought a little bit that it's something like I asked them to well, first of all, they were stingy with the upgrades, and I asked them if, as a diamond member, I could possibly get 3 people's breakfast covered instead of 2, and obviously that's beyond what's allowed, which is 2. But both Marriott and Hyatt on the same trip were happy to make that extension, but Hilton at the Waldorf in Shanghai was not. So I was a bit disappointed there. I felt like the hotel was kind of coasting on its name brand and on its location right on the Bund with those views. So not sure I'd recommend it, but hey, I've heard others have had good experiences. So yeah, where were we? Let's talk about the US Bonvoy Brilliant and Business offers, just because I know people have been asking, with this week's news, it is still worth going for those 2 super high offers. I think so. I think there's a difference here between the short-term reaction and the long-term reaction. Obviously, much of the disappointment and the desperation that we have with hotel rewards is talking long-term, right? It's looking like there's fewer and fewer ways to actually cover our hotel stays at a good value, and that's discouraging. But in the short term, in 2022, it could be more interesting because we talked about Marriott Bonvoy's small measures of positive news this week. Well, free night awards are going to be top upable by up to 15,000 Bonvoy points, so that'll make them more flexible, and it'll let the free night awards be redeemable towards a wider range of hotels. For example, if you got the 85k free night awards from the Bonvoy Brilliant, that can actually be combined with up to 15,000 more points for a stay that costs 100,000 points, right? So you could actually go to one of the aspirational Maldives resorts, during a peak date and still cover it mostly with a Freenet award. That's, I think, one of the major complaints with the Freenet awards so far has been with the introduction of peak and off-peak pricing. A lot of the times, if it's peak pricing, for example, the 35K reward, you can't use that for a category 5 anymore. So that's kind of limiting. But now you will be able to combine it with, not just getting a peak category 5 reward, but also a standard category 6 reward at 50,000 points by adding 15,000 points to the 35K. That is supposed to kick in early 2022, so that sounds like it'll be before the categories go away in March. Well, it should be, and that'll give us a bit of an interesting window where we can actually use these Freenet awards, which many of us have earned in a very high number, right? And we haven't necessarily had the chance to redeem on our travels. We'll be able to redeem them for a much wider range of uses compared to before. And with what's going on in March 2022 specifically, when categories go away, what happens there? I think there's going to be some interesting things when once categories go away. There could be hotels that, if you look at the email that you got as a Bonvoy member, you'll see that from March through December there was an animated GIF that kind of shows that the points pricing could go like 31,000, 32,000, 32,500 month by month. So it could simply vary, and you may get like a few cheaper points deals compared to otherwise. We're kind of scraping for the small victories here in 2022 because we know that in 2023 it's going to be truly unpredictable, and the prospects for high value that we all love here in Canada, it looks uncertain. Okay, we're not going to totally rule it out, but knowing Bonvoy, it looks like the odds are more negative than positive. Alex T, welcome back to the stream. Obviously, I last spoke to you in our members stream last Thursday. If you do want to unlock more live streams that we do on a monthly basis for our members, consider joining Prince of Travel membership. You'll find the link in the description below. Excluding aspirational Marriott hotels and the stingy North America, Europe hotels, what are your thoughts on hotels in less developed countries? I think in general, we'll see the points prices track the cash prices more closely. And I've seen two different types of phenomena in less developed countries. Sometimes they're like cheap, as you might expect, let's say $100 per night for a decent level of service, and oftentimes you'll get breakfast and a lounge, and that's obviously a great deal. So in that case, you might see the points prices match that to be low, but what I would say there is the points prices in those markets were probably low in the first place. In fact, they would have been low in the first place. So I don't think relatively to now it's going to be so much more interesting. On the other hand, if you go to places like China or India or some parts in Africa, what you'll often see is, I think this holds true more with Africa, I'd say, that I've observed. What you'll see is that the cash prices in like certain African places, like when I went to Ghana, for example, there's a Marriott there. It was quite nice. It was a full service hotel. It was a category 3, so it was very cheap in terms of points, and it was a good deal to redeem points. But because of the brand standing, globally, and because it is still a Marriott, because people who go to Africa probably want to pay a premium for those well-recognized Western brands, the cash rates at the Marriotts in Accra, the capital of Ghana, was still around $200 to $250. Like, it was not cheap compared to my expectations. It was more expensive than what I would expect. So if the points price tracks the cash price there, it might actually get more expensive, right? And that's something I would not like to see, because one of the niche applications of Bonvoy points is that you can go to, given Marriott's incredible industry-leading footprints around the world, you can go to some of these off-the-beaten-track places, and you can count on finding a Marriott hotel that you can either pay cash for if it's cheap and earn some points, or ideally redeem points if it's a good deal. And going forward, if points just follows cash, then redeeming points when it's a good deal is going to be fewer and far between. Hope that answers your question, Alex. The high end and at the low end, I don't really think there's too many prospects for things getting better just knowing Bonvoy. Now, arguably, and I addressed this in the video too, in the middle end, potentially, you know, if you're going to Montreal or Boston or New York these days, there are times where it's like 200 US dollars, so not unreasonable, or 50,000 points, which is kind of crazy if the cash price is only 200 US dollars. Now, maybe those will go down to like 30,000 or however much it is. So you could say that's a better deal in the future than now. Like if you just go to these major cities, but I don't really think that's I think that's more of something that was previously very bad getting less bad, rather than the program actually getting stronger. Okay, so you know, I think we need to. I think we'd be giving Bonvoy too much credit if we took that as a positive. Anyway, we've spoken a lot about Bonvoy and their track record of Bonvoying us, sadly, and you know, we can all look back fondly and with nostalgia to the SPG days, Starwood hotels, when there was such good value in hotels. I kind of mentioned in the video that these things tend to be cyclical, so who knows what it'll look like in the distant future, but definitely for the near future, for the medium term, you know, next 5 years or so, let's think about, you know, I think the strategy will very much be use your points to save a bunch of money on flights, and then use the money you've saved to stay at places. It's probably going to be the general truth. Ray, welcome back to the stream. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for making time on this Halloween Sunday, everybody, for joining me. So you've mentioned this a few times in the chat. We need a Canadian World of Hyatt credit card. We need a Canadian lots of things, my friend. We need, you know, they've got 4 Hilton cards in the States. We've got none. They've got 2 Hyatt cards now, and yeah, we're just either peering down jealously, or obviously taking action to pursue those ourselves through US credit cards. But again, you know, that's may not be something that everybody's willing to go that step. But yeah, you're right. I'd love to see a Canadian World of Hyatt card. Just make the program so much more meaningful for us. I think with travel picking up, I think there could be opportunities for all the different issuers to explore new markets. I wouldn't rule it out, and I think obviously we've seen this year that American Express has been the most aggressive in winning new business as travel recovers. So hopefully they'll keep that up through 2022. All right, some very varied mix of questions here in the chat, but we'll go through them a little bit. Yeah, Archie, St. Regis and Ritz in Kazakhstan. Those are some very good hotels, by the way. I've stayed at both. The St. Regis in Nur Sultan is incredible. Like, it's really, really strong. It's a category 4 or 5, if I'm not mistaken. And the Ritz in Almaty gave me just the best, one of the best suites. So, if points opportunities like those were to go away, I'd be quite sad, because I do love seeking out some of those off the beaten path places too. What's a credit card you recommend to somebody who's new to the credit card game, looking to prioritize travel? Black Spawn 202. You've gotten the Amex Cobalt during the summertime. That was a great time to pick it up. Check out the video I just released today about the fall 2021 credit cards to prioritize. I'd say there's lots of strong offers out there, especially, I'd say American Express offers are relatively weak compared to their summer peak. So, with American Express, with the once-in-a-lifetime welcome bonuses, you do want to prioritize record high historical offers when you apply. So now you might consider some of the other issuers, like the big 5 banks. I can think of 4 of them off the top of my head. Or MBNA, HSBC, those other issuers. They've all... It's kind of like American Express made the huge plays in the summer, and now they've taken a step back, and the other banks are competing for the scraps because they're too conservative to do something really, really groundbreaking. Omaha or St. Regis, Maldives before the devaluation? Why not both? Sean, why not both? I'm gonna try to do both, but if I had to pick one, depends on what, like you kind of have to think about, are you gonna prefer being in the middle of the ocean or being in the middle of the desert? Both are very unique experiences, probably in terms of the sheer uniqueness, the sheer luxury, still the Maldives. But keep in mind, you'll also pay a higher price for that because you do have to pay that $800 seaplane fee, and the cost of food and beverages there is going to add up very quickly. Whereas with Omaha, it's all inclusive, like food, not drinks, but all your meals. You can get room service. You get 2 desert activities per day. So in terms of sheer luxury, maybe the Maldives. In terms of sheer value, maybe Omaha, right? If you don't want to pay anything out of pocket. When do you think travel will be back at pre-pandemic level travels? Hey Nico, you recently traveled. Yeah, I'd say it's still a while. I think 2021 we saw a pretty encouraging upturn in travel, with a bit of a wrench, thrown into the works with Delta variant. I think in 2022 it's going to be even more encouraging, but I still think it'll be nowhere near 2019 levels, and I think it might be 2023, like late 2023, when the world truly opens up and it's more of a realistic possibility to get back to the cross-border travel phenomena that we saw from before. But I'm happy with that. I'm okay with the slower, steadier recovery. I think those who are more comfortable with the risks are going to be traveling these days and being compensated for the risk they're taking on by maybe a nicer travel experience with fewer travelers. Certainly, I think once the average traveler who's like the once a year spring break crowd start to travel, it's pretty chaotic out there. Like no matter where you go, there will probably be lots and lots of people. So Paul, yeah, I just heard about, like, Air Canada's hiring 1,500 new flight attendants. Like, think about that. So they must have a good feeling about 2022 for sure. And I'm very encouraged for next year, both in terms of my own travel possibilities and all of our travel possibilities, and countries reopening, and people getting more excited about travel, and potentially even better promotions and offers coming around. So lots to look forward to, as has been the case for most of this year too. But that brings me to a thought that I had, which is we almost got through 2021 without a major devaluation taking place to some of the programs that we love, until this week, right? Until Marriott Bonvoy. Yeah, like last year we had Aeroplan obviously devaluing. This year it almost seemed like just a long track record of good news, but there always has to be a balance. There's always a boom and a bust with these things, and the game is always changing, both negatively and positively. So stay on top of everything, and you'll be doing great. Yeah, Ure, you remember thinking COVID would end in 6 months? Man, I remember in March 2020 thinking, oh, I'll just push back my mini round the world from May to July, and I'll seems like a good chance of being able to take that trip. How naive I was. I think how naive we all were, right? At the time, we were all very hopeful. Does Amex usually have their best sign-up offers in the summer? I don't know if there's really a multi-year seasonality pattern to it. I think this year, for sure, they wanted to capture the summer trend towards people being really excited to travel that we definitely saw in the spring and summer. And I actually think we'll probably see the seasonality to the whole COVID phenomenon in future years too. I think we'll see in the spring and summer just caseloads dropping around the world and people being really encouraged. And then in the fall, a little bit of an uptick that we have seen this year and last year, with people being more indoors and interacting more, and just kind of the whole cyclical nature of it that we're pretty familiar with by now. So for that reason, for somebody who's new to the sign-up offers, I do think if American Express is going back to the 150K, 200K level, well, 150K level at least, most likely it'll be summer 2022. Most likely. If they do. If they don't, there's a chance we don't see those levels ever again. But I think there's a chance they'll bring it back because, again, the real boom is still a few years away. Hey Ben, how's it going? Inspirational Bonvoy redemptions. Ooh. Yeah, Jason here in the chat has hit the nail on the head. The Ritz Kyoto, if outside of the Al Maha and the St. Regis Maldives, I'd say the Ritz Kyoto is one of the best city hotels I've ever stayed at. And if you did want to lock in an aspirational redemption, that's one that you might consider booking. That's one that I would probably consider booking again for a Japan trip. And I would combine that with a whole bunch of Kyoto luxury hotels that have recently opened or become bookable on points. I think there's a Park Hyatt, there's a LXR by Hilton. That'd be a fun hotel hop video for sure. Expensive, but fun. Do you ever feel sad or angry? If so, how do you handle these difficult feelings? Book more trips. That's my therapy basically. Okay, this is a great question, Sean. What redemption do you think was the most overrated and which was the most underrated? I would have to think a little bit about that. Points redemption in terms of, redeeming my points for a stay. I don't actually know if I can think of any overrated ones right now. Let me know if you're talking about flights or hotels, but I'm going to try to answer for both. Flights wise, yeah, it's hard to really think about these things and say one was a little bit disappointing. Maybe Swiss. Swiss is kind of overrated. Yeah, and I say this with the context that Swiss was one of the first business class flights that I had taken ever, right? It was second long haul business class, Swiss business class, and I had read a lot about it, and it was one of the easiest, and it still is one of the easiest business class flights to book with Aeroplan points, which is where you typically get started, right? And yeah, it looked a lot nicer in photos and in people's reviews than actually in the experience. Still a solid way to cross the Atlantic, but maybe a little bit overrated. Yeah, TJ, hey, how's it going? Rouge. Is Rouge overrated? No, I'd say it's adequately rated as terrible. So, there's a difference there. I think Swiss has kind of a reputation that might precede itself a little bit. And it might underdeliver if you're aiming for it. I almost have the same feeling about Swiss first class, which is, it's really hyped up, it's really exclusive because they don't want people booking it on points, but everybody's always like, it's not actually that good, it's just really hard to book. So I don't know if I'm actually gonna pull out all the stops to go and try it out. Underrated airlines, Sean, just to power through these a bit quickly. SAS, Scandinavian Airlines, pretty underrated, I'd say. Pretty solid way to fly across the Atlantic, especially if you're going to Northern Europe. And hotels wise, overrated hotels. I mean, think about this in the context of purely the aspirational Bonvoy one, since we're talking about that today, right? Since we're talking about aspirational Bonvoy, Mystique Resort in Santorini kind of gets lumped together with some of those other ones. But I'd say if you're paying the same amount of points for, Al Maha or St. Regis Maldives compared to Mystique, I'd say the latter two are better choice. Mystique and Santorini, the truth with Santorini is you could either splurge 1,000 euros, which is how much Mystique charges, or you could splurge you could spend 100 euros and get largely the similar experience at one of the Airbnbs or smaller, hotels that's also built into the cave side. So the experience is pretty much the same, and the views are going to be the same because you're in the same position. So for that reason, Mystique Santorini, even though I truly enjoyed my experience, I spent my 25th birthday there, it was awesome. Still, compared to the points price, and if you did have a limited set of points that you were deciding where to stay, I'd say some of the other ones I mentioned in this stream, Al Maha, St. Regis Maldives or JW or W or one of those, Ritz-Carlton Kyoto, those would be the better choices. Hey Ben, thank you for the super chat here. I appreciate that, and glad I was able to get your question answered. So thank you for contributing. Everybody else, if you want your question answered quickly, I'm just saying. But obviously, no obligations. How have you taken advantage of the United Silver status with titanium from Marriott? Yeah, great question, Anthony. Truthfully, it hasn't been the most useful for me because it's just silver status. So it's just like the bottom rung of United status. And I haven't really flown United at all. So I haven't really taken advantage of it besides matching it over to Alaska MVP, which again isn't also that useful. So what have I gotten out of it? I guess when I flew Alaska Airlines recently, I could have checked an extra bag, but I didn't need to, so I didn't. I guess I did get to choose a preferred seat for free as an Alaska MVP, which I status matched for my silver. And I do think if I were to fly United more, I might get a few operational upgrades just on account of... But then again, I have Aeroplan 50K, so I would put my 50K status and Star Alliance Gold instead of silver. I'm not sure whether they would prioritize United Silvers versus an Aeroplan 50K. Then again, I don't really have plans to fly United that much, especially since their presence here on the West Coast isn't that strong. Yeah, I hope that helps. I haven't really used it, but it's nice to have because I could always match it. Oh, I matched it this week to Italy's ITA Airways Volare status, and we'll see what that brings, you know. Since it's silver, since it's the bottom rung, it'll probably be something that's more than nothing but less than something. But again, ITA Airways is now part of SkyTeam, so maybe when I fly, you know, some SkyTeam airline in economy when I don't have benefits, it'll give me like 1 or 2 extra benefits. Catherine, do you have a status match chart? Not really, because that's something that changes so often, and often it is very opaque in terms of which airlines will match which status. Oftentimes it is very short term, the opportunities. So rather than making a chart and updating it all the time, I think, you know, if I do think we could cover some of these global status match opportunities more in depth over on Prince of Travel. So that'll probably be what we do. How are we doing, everybody? What's everybody's upcoming trips? I've got Nicaragua booked for starting next week. I'm going to Kalala Island, big Hyatt redemption. I'm extremely excited for that, and also looking forward to checking out more of the country as well as part of an overall 1-week trip. And making some more travel content. It's been a while. It's been a while since I've taken an international, or let's say, taken a trip out of North America. So definitely this November, next week of November, and then later on this month, before the end of the year, there are some exciting flights and hotels and destinations that I'd like to share with you guys. I'm also, really itching for that. Hey, DJ Yellow. Hope you're doing well, man. Thanks for tuning in. Hope the DJ business is going well. Cigar, you were able to collect, I assume you mean 350,000 points, because if you were to collect $350,000, then what are you even doing here? As an international student, by starting this year. So, hard to find good value redemptions to Europe in economy. I'm actually in the middle of shooting a video about sweet spots on this exact topic, and I have one for you in the video, but since you're here, I'll just share it here. The best economy class sweet spot for me in Canada would be Aer Lingus. Aer Lingus economy class from Toronto to Dublin with British Airways Avios. So if you look at an off-peak date, it's only 13,000 Avios one way, which is pretty incredible, especially if you can combine it with a transfer bonus to Avios from American Express or RBC. And then Cigar. So this really only works if you're going to Ireland, but you can always, Ireland is the is the home of Ryanair, so you can always combine it with like a cheap intra-Europe flight and get to wherever you need to go. Nicaragua is bringing it all the way. So I've booked a few tours that'll help me, explore some of the places, but those are just local tours. I've booked the flights separately from the resorts, and then I've booked a car rental. So I'll talk about the whole trip in a post coming later this week. It was surprisingly hard to find good flights down to Nicaragua. Country's still, it's open, but it's still like there's not that many flights going into the country, and flights in general, like across North America, are less plentiful than they were before. So, and obviously expensive if booking with cash, but then on points there was very little availability too. So that was actually surprisingly challenging, and I ended up piecing together like a bit of a Frankenstein trip with Aeroplan and e-upgrades, and then cash fares, and then like I've got a cash fare in economy class, and then a surprisingly cheap cash fare in business. Anyway, I'll share all the details over on the website. Abhinav, hey, thanks for the compliments. It's awesome to have somebody talk about Canadian credit cards. Oh, for sure. That was the reason we started this all the way back in 2017. Really felt like there's a lot of the game to be played in Canada, but very few people actually making it possible, right? Making it possible for people. And Nick, yeah. So I'm happy to have been able to change your life, in your words, and not in a bad way. I'm glad to hear that. If anybody's life has been changed in a bad way, let me know. I apologize in advance. Oh yeah, friendly reminder, if anybody has gray PayPower cards, if you know, those expire in October 2021. That's a big blast from the past for me, Yellow. Thanks for that, I needed that. If you have those, go ahead and withdraw your balance, because otherwise it's going to expire tomorrow. Sean, you've got 3 nights booked at the Alila Ventana, so lucky you, man. It's been hard to book standard room rewards at that place. It's been difficult to find one, so I'm jealous. Alila Ventana is kind of like it's kind of like Omaha, but for Hyatt, and it's closer to home over in California. Now, personally, I find it a little bit. I'm just a little less excited by Alila Ventana than going all the way to Dubai or the Maldives, just because it's close to home. But maybe I'm mistaken for that. Maybe it is, something I should get more excited about. If anybody's stayed there, experienced it, let me know. All right, Dave, your life has been changed in a bad way. Can't take long flights in economy class anymore. Yeah, you and me both, my friend. It is a problem to have, but it's a good problem to have. And it kind of keeps you motivated to keep racking up the points. What do you think about Singapore Airlines Vancouver Singapore? I think it's going to be a great flight if they're going to release any standard or even Saver or even Advantage award seats. I didn't see them release any seats at any level when the flight first launched, and that's kind of disappointing if we wanted to take advantage of the vaccinated travel lane. But I do hope it sticks around after February 2022, because especially if, let's say in the future, when Singapore Airlines reward space is back on Aeroplan, I think that'd be a super convenient option, and it's always nice to have more direct flights from the Canadian side. The new green is blue. Now that the new Aeroplan... Okay, so free first check bag on Air Canada flights. Get a TD Aeroplan Visa Infinite, right? That's the simplest. Get any core or premium card, just like Richard has said here. So, go for that. That's an automatic benefit as long as you have the card and you include your Aeroplan number on your reservation. You'll just get the free first check bag. Paramveer just hit Aeroplan Elite status for the first time. Congrats. and you're gonna do the 10K spend and get yourself to 35K. So that's awesome. Obviously, we all know the importance of e-upgrades with the new program, and I think they've done a great job, Aeroplan, of making elite status more integrated with the point side of things. So there's definitely a very strong incentive to go for 25K every year and see if you can bump up to 35K, or even higher through these non-flying methods. And so, yeah, I think if you have those e-upgrades, you can basically fly business class within Canada without having to deal with dynamic pricing too much. So enjoy, Paramveer, and congrats on the achievement. Is it possible to get Canadian credit cards if you're US based? So some American viewers of the channel keep asking me this, and honestly, I think it is. I just haven't researched it. But if we were to just apply the same principles, because you can easily get a Canadian mail forwarding address for sure. You just need to research those services. A Canadian bank account might be tricky, but you'll probably need to at least spend some time, and by some time it could be a few days, but pop up to Toronto or Vancouver. At least ideally you have a friend whose address that you can use, and you might be able to go to a bank account, a bank branch, and just say that you recently either moved or are interested in moving, right? Because maybe you are interested in moving, and maybe you'd be able to open a bank account that way. Yeah, actually, bringing it back to American Express, I think American Express Global Transfer might be your best bet, because that's very much geared towards people who are relocating or just being more global, right? Whether you live in the US and work in Canada, or even just spend some time in Canada because you have ties here. If you're interested in building ties in a country, American Express Global Transfer is kind of the service geared towards that. So you could potentially get started through that and then build your credit history. Obviously, when you apply for Canadian credit cards, you also don't need to include a social insurance number, which is our version of the social security number. It's optional, but you don't need to include it, so you never need to get an ITIN or anything like that. At least in theory, yeah. Sean, it's something that I'd be interested in researching and answering for you guys out of curiosity at some point, but I wouldn't say it's a big priority for us to make content about can Americans get Canadian credit cards, but maybe at some point we will get to it. Okay, speaking of the ITIN, Devin, any recommendations for going through the ITIN process? If you want to do it yourself, honestly, my recommendation is to use a service, because just the uncertainty around filling in the form yourself and the time that you might waste in not filling it in correctly, and then getting spending months waiting for an ITIN but only to get rejected. Think about it. There's that, or there's pay $100, $200 and get it all done for you. To me, the decision is clear. The services are very useful for that stuff. Okay, Emma. So you have an answer here, which is Americans can open Canadian bank accounts easily. Yeah, I don't think it'd be too much trouble, because we get tons of Americans here who have ties on both sides of the border. So I think it should be decently feasible if you want to go for it. The question is it really worth going through the trouble for a smaller pool of extra welcome bonuses that you might be able to get? Maybe. If you see a lot of value in Aeroplan points, absolutely, because if you can get the let's say Aeroplan Reserve, Aeroplan Business Reserve, that's a whole bunch of extra points that you don't have access to in Canada. In the US. However, there's the problem, which is all of our cards have foreign transaction fees. So if you're spending in the US, it's going to cost you dearly. So that's a disadvantage, You either spend in Canada, or you find a Canadian friend to help you do the spend, because I can't imagine trying to hit those $5,000, $10,000 spending requirements purely on US transactions. That's going to be rough. By the way, guys, this is a limited edition, like first edition Prince of Travel mug. Just to share with you guys, because there's only 4 of these, and Jesse got these made for me way back a few years ago. But soon we'll be coming out with these things. If you were at the Prince of Travel event, you will have already had the chance to get your hands on this. But soon we'll be launching our merchandise store, and we've got this very, very hard to find mugs printed in this color. So I'm very proud of this, and you guys will all be able to sip on your own beverages as we hang out here on Sunday afternoons with your mug in hand. So look out for that before the end of the year. Yurei, I'm drinking my second coffee of the day. It has been a bit of a late start today. Had a bit of a lazy morning this Sunday. All right, what else is on people's minds? I'm gonna scroll up through the chat a bit and see what you guys have got. Yeah, so I don't think Bonvoy really thinks that they're, if we look at what the Bonvoy CEO recently said, he said that expect the loyalty program to be more in favor of hotel owners rather than hotel guests. And he said that the way we hope to deliver value to hotel guests is through our massive footprint, which is our competitive strength. So yeah, and what Richard answered the question here, which is Marriott has the world's, has the most hotels compared to their property. So that already means that they can deliver less value on the loyalty side and still people will stay with them, because there's places that you can go where there's only a Marriott's and no other chain. So, if they're thinking for short-term profits, they're like, well, we can devalue the program quite a lot and still retain our footprint advantage. And they're not wrong in that regard. For that reason, I'm not going to stop staying with Marriott, because they're often still going to be the best choice wherever I go. I just have to first of all, I'm not going to have as many good opportunities to redeem points for those stays. And when I pay cash and the points I get, I'm going to feel less good about earning those points, because it's like, well, what are these points good for anyway? But that doesn't mean that I'm not staying with them, because the alternative is to go for Airbnbs and couch surfing. For people who are on the fence, right, between Airbnbs and hotels, this development might mean that a lot of them start pursuing Airbnbs more. But if you like to stay at hotels, if you need, a comfortable space and space to work, and if you kind of, just prefer hotels over Airbnbs, then Marriott's kind of counting on that strength in numbers advantage that they have. Anthony, I hope that makes sense. Why would they do this? Some of you guys, if you're new to hotel points, you might be thinking why would they just, devalue the whole thing, and this sucks. Why would they do this? It's kind of a race to the bottom. It's kind of a race to the bottom between all the major chains. Now, I mentioned before, and this is just a thought that just occurred to me. I mentioned before that this stuff is cyclical, and that, we might see a rebound, a change in the future. Just look at what happens this week with American Airlines too, right? Several years ago, we've been observing for since 2013 onwards to now, Delta, American Airlines, and United, they're always kind of doing a race to the bottom, and how much they can devalue their airline programs and still, have people fly with them. And they followed through with that, right? Delta, American, and United all changed their elite qualifying criteria from how many miles you fly to how much money you spend. That was a thing that we observed. It's called going to revenue-based, elite status, and then even dynamic, sorry, let me get these thoughts in order a little bit. So they went to revenue-based elite status, all 3 of them. They went to dynamic award pricing. So Delta is dynamic when you try to book flights. United is also now dynamic. They got rid of the award chart. American still has the award chart, but it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what American does there, because going back to the revenue-based elite status for a moment, American Airlines this week completely changed their tune and now has introduced a brand new concept of loyalty points, is what they're calling it, which is basically you can either fly with us or spend on our co-branded credit cards to get elite status, which is pretty revolutionary. Like, we in Canada, it hasn't gotten much attention because very few of us are pursuing American Airlines status, but if you're talking among global frequent flyer programs, this is a pretty big deal. And what this says to me is like, this is kind of like a reversal of the whole race to the bottom that we saw from the past decade or so, with all these three airlines trying to devalue their elite program. And now American Airlines is doing something innovative and different. And if you're not a frequent flyer, it's arguably, it's certainly even stronger than before. Like, it's actually a positive change. So that's an example of the cyclical nature of this stuff. Let's say in 10 years, maybe it's probably not going to be Bonvoy. It might be Hyatt or Hilton. Maybe everybody's gone dynamic, and then one of them suddenly says, we're gonna do something different now. And it might not be a chart that we know now, but it might be something we haven't even thought about. The game is always changing, and that's kind of what keeps things interesting over the longer term. And we are always traveling, so we're always gonna need to be staying on top of the best ways to do everything. I did want to go back to the whole American elite status thing, and not specifically about American, but because this is my understanding that combining flying activity and credit card spend and e-store purchases and engagement with the program, engagement with the program's partners, all of this is also the direction that Aeroplan here in Canada wants to go in as well. That's kind of my sense around the whole elite status. We could very well see, like, Aeroplan hasn't really announced any meaningful changes to status. Aeroplan hasn't really announced any meaningful changes to status for 2022, right? And I wouldn't be surprised if they introduce something similar, actually, something more, something completely different from what we have now, which is SQM, SQS, and SQD. That's kind of very complex, right? American Airlines has introduced something very simple: loyalty points. Here's how you earn loyalty points. You need this many loyalty points to get status. So if Aeroplan does that this year as well, I would welcome it, because maybe we'll be able to spend our way to 50K or 75K. Obviously, knowing that Aeroplan needs to protect the top tier super elites. Anyway. Quite the racket there. Yeah. Guys, very loud. All right. So yeah, guys, let me know a few thoughts on what you might see with the status side, but that's kind of my impression. I think there's a lot of room for things to be shaken up, and that's also why sometimes it's just important to remind ourselves that sometimes things move in a surprisingly positive direction too, even though largely things get devalued over time. Will I ever do a house tour? Probably not. I'd much prefer to continue doing hotel suite tours. I think that'll also be more interesting for you guys. Canadian Amex Bonvoy cards are still keepers going forward, yay or nay? The whole keeper angle for the Bonvoy cards is very much the free night awards worth 35K points, which will soon be able to be topped up to 50K points. And as long as whatever 50K points or 35K points gets us in the new program, in the new dynamic arrangement, as long as that's worth more than $120 or $150, yeah, still keeper on paper. Now the question is, we'll have to observe in 2023 exactly on average how much 35K points or 50K points is worth. If it's like not worth that much more than the annual fee, then maybe it's worth getting rid of the cards and picking up a few other credit cards instead. Because after all, don't forget that American Express limits you to four credit cards here in Canada. unlimited charge cards, but generally speaking, for credit cards, although it's not always enforced, but for most people, it does seem to be enforced. Quick side note here, by the way, over in the US, it's a limit of 5 credit cards with American Express US, technically, but I somehow have 6 credit cards right now, and again, it just seems like it's not always enforced strictly, but it does happen sometimes where you can get 6. And it's actually pretty powerful to get 6 Amex US cards, because I've got what? The Bonvoy card, the base Bonvoy card, the Bonvoy Brilliant, the Bonvoy Business, and the Hilton Surpass and the Aspire. I actually have 2 Hilton Surpasses now because I recently got an upgrade offer. Recently got an upgrade offer on the Hilton no fee card after like 3 years of holding it, and I I now have 2 Surpass cards, which means I get 2 free net awards every year upon spending 15 grand on each. Maybe I'll share some more about that in a future video too, about Hilton. Jason, hey Jason, how are you doing, man? Hope it's going well in Toronto. Thanks for tuning in. Are you gonna apply for the Chase Aeroplan card? Yes, I probably will. It depends on all the details when the card launches, but we know for sure that basically Scott and Derek from Aeroplan said this at the event, that there will be features and benefits on the US issued Chase Aeroplan card that we don't have here in Canada, and vice versa. And the logical conclusion from that is if you can hold both, you get the best of both worlds. So, I mean, I'm like very low on Chase 524 right now. It's been about 2 years since I got a bunch of personal cards, so I'm dipping like now to 324, or I think even 224. I'll have to calculate, but I definitely want to get the Chase Hyatt personal, the Chase Aeroplan, and maybe even the Chase Bonvoy Boundless, because I want to take that Bonvoy Boundless and then upgrade it into the Ritz-Carlton card in the future, 12 months later. Am I planning to upgrade all the Surpasses to the Aspire? Yeah, probably, but I would wait. I'm just gonna sit around patiently and wait for more upgrade offers to come, because those are really unpredictable, and I don't know if there's a pattern to like whether or not you get upgrade offers and when, but I just know that, yeah, oftentimes you do get them. Typically it's a targeted email with a specific offer code. Just to expand on this a little bit actually, because I got an upgrade offer for the no fee Hilton to the Hilton Surpass for 150,000 points, but I did not hold the Hilton Surpass just yet. So if I just took the upgrade offer and upgraded to the Surpass, then I would rule myself out from getting the welcome bonus on the Surpass in the future, because you can only get the welcome bonus if you've never held the card before, right? It's a very subtle kind of strategy point there that it's important to understand if you're playing the upgrade game. So what I did, I immediately applied for a new Hilton Surpass, and actually got declined because I was at my unofficial limit of 6 Amex US credit cards. I decided to cancel my existing Hilton Business to get the new Hilton Surpass application pushed through. Once it got approved, I immediately then accepted the upgrade offer, and in that fashion, I was no longer ruling myself out because I already got the new application approved. So now I have 2 Hilton Surpass spends to work on and bonuses to get, and then eventually free net awards to collect. So it's always important to keep that once-in-a-lifetime rule in mind if you're doing upgrades and downgrades. Skinny DH, just to expand here, upgrading means, yeah, starting with a base card and then getting a targeted offer to earn points when you upgrade, rather than just upgrading without that offer. Because if you upgrade without that offer, you don't get any points. You have to wait for that targeted offer. Yeah, Jason, double dip, exactly. Alan Iceman, they have the Ritz card, but it's only available through upgrades. You can't apply for it directly anymore. That's kind of the subtle distinction there, and it's still worth upgrading, I'd say, if you have either the Chase, Bonvoy, Boundless, or Bold, because what you get is, I think, unlimited Priority Pass visits, but since it's a Visa card, you can visit the restaurants, so it's unlimited uses, and your authorized users also get unlimited Priority Pass. So you can actually add a bunch of authorized users, and I mean, there's some games you could play there, but it could be also risky. which I may get into more once I get my hands on the card. There's also a few Ritz benefits associated with it, and maybe a free night award worth 50k points, if I'm not mistaken. Anthony, yeah, so you asked about the perks. I just went through a few of them there. It's 5 p.m. guys, so since it is since I do have to finish shooting up this video that I was in the middle of shooting, I do want to get back to it as soon as possible, but let me know if you guys have any last minute questions. I'm just going to address a few more before I hop off. Let's see. So Sam, you've asked this a few times. Would you foresee a lot of competition from US-based customers for the Aeroplan award flights? And I think Emma said that most people don't care about Aeroplan. I think Aeroplan's definitely making a play for the US side and trying to capture more attention and more, cardholder interest. And so I expect their card offering to be very competitive. Especially if they live in a city that Aeroplan serves, and it might help them sway their decision to book with Air Canada through one of the Toronto or Montreal or Vancouver hubs for their Asia or Europe travels. I think that's kind of the function and the purpose of this Chase Aeroplan, so I do think there will be more interest than before. All right, last few questions. Best guesses on what rewards the CIBC Costco MasterCard will have. Honestly, I'd be very surprised if they went innovative with that. I think with how many Costco shoppers there are and the existing demand for the card, they could go ahead and not do much with the card at all, CIBC, and it would still be a very strong product. It'll be interesting though, because maybe they'll decide to integrate things with their Aventura program. Maybe CIBC hasn't proven to be the most innovative bank, so I'm going to keep my expectations low for that one. May L, do you think Japan will open up anytime soon? I'm hearing that the signs are looking good, right? I'm hearing lots of rumors that yes, perhaps there's plans in the works to open in some capacity, whether that's late this year or early next year. So I'm hopeful. Certainly, I'm already starting to book some flights and hotels. As I mentioned, Kyoto is a big one. Especially since living here in Vancouver, it's obviously a sweet spot that we pop over to Japan pretty easily. Yeah, and on that note, Anthony, good night. And yeah, guys, I'm gonna hop off for today's stream. Hope everybody enjoys their Halloween evening, whether you've got activities planned or you're just gonna chill and watch a scary movie. That's probably what I'm gonna do tonight. Maybe throw some candy at the kids from our balcony too. But yeah, I hope everybody has a good rest of the Sunday, and it's getting pretty loud out there, so I'm also gonna hop off. I'm gonna skip the next couple of weeks in terms of the live stream because I'll be traveling, but whenever we see each other next, it's gonna be a good time. I hope everybody's enjoyed today's session, and I'm looking forward to Kalala Island. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I'll have lots of content for you guys from down in Central America too. See you guys soon.